Morning, everyone. How are you doing? It's me again, 11 o'clock. Hope everybody's doing okay and glad to talk to you. Um, I was out a little bit yesterday here in LA. I had to run a quick errand and was really surprised at the traffic on the streets. We just had an announcement made that LA and LA County is going to continue to be on lockdown for 3 more months. 3 more months. That's May to June, June to July, July to August. So that's throughout the summer. Now, surely um, they're going to be phasing as we go along and not just go from zero to full open in the middle of August. But there's some very unhappy people in California right now hearing that this is the case. But the justification that's being offered by Mayor Garcetti out here is that half of the cases in California are in LA County, and that there has been a fairly consistent stair stepping up of cases and deaths in LA County. So um, they're taking a conservative approach to this. Um, so I'm just curious how things went for you guys over the weekend and how you spent Monday, which was the first business day when I know a lot of businesses opened with curbside delivery and that sort of thing. So let me hear from you about that. I've had a lot of generic questions just about how Robin and I are doing. So let me address that. Um, we're we're doing great, and I would uh, be ridiculous to complain. Neither of us has been ill or contracted the virus, and we're together and have been working from home. I think I was on camera close to 8 hours yesterday. For some reason, a lot of things just fell on one day. Um, and if I'm on camera for 8 hours, that means my staff is hooked up for 8 hours. So my executive producers, supervisors, everyone was really working hard yesterday for 8 hours. We did a lot of live appearances at markets around the country, um, and been doing the same thing this morning, talking to LA, New York, yesterday, Chicago, Boston, just different places around the country, talking about what's going on. People seem to be very excited about the fact that we have gone back to pre-pandemic programming. Um, and I have to tell you, it was very uplifting and nostalgic for me to see those shows roll on, because and I know some of you have been there, most of you I'm sure have not, but when we're in studio, there's a lot of energy there. I mean, the audience is there and music is playing and people are buzzing around and there's activity and live guests are there and they're being flown in from all over the country. And it's a big production with a lot of people working to make it happen, and to see all of that and everything that was shot right before we got locked down for the pandemic was very energizing and very uplifting. I hope you'll tune in and see, because we've got great shows. Um, this is a little bit of inside baseball, or maybe more television than you want to know, but May is a very important month for advertisers. It's when they set some of their um, levels and one thing and another. So they always ask us, hey, save some of your best shows for May. And so we had done that. And so now we have all these great shows for May that are airing from the studio. So when you tune in, we're not breaking the rules. This was all done right up to the day that we got shut down. So I think you're going to find these very interesting. I'll talk about three in a minute. One of them is very, very interesting and very timely. But let me answer some questions first. Myrna Acosta says, I have 3 teenagers and it's very hard to keep them indoors. What do you recommend? Well, don't keep them indoors. Why would you keep your teenagers indoors? It's beautiful out. Let them outside. Now, when they go out, they need to follow the guidelines and the rules and maintain social distancing, keep a mask with them in case they walk up on or encounter somebody or somebody comes by if they're out in the yard or whatever. But let me tell you, we need to be out and getting fresh air right now. Look, I've said this before, probably, I don't know, 75 or 100 times. Being in quarantine takes a toll. It is not risk-free. It is not consequence-free. And is it necessary? Has it been useful? I think so, yes. There are a lot of experts who say no, that we should have never gone into quarantine to begin with. I'm not one of those people. I think that we did the right thing at the time. But you reach a point of diminishing returns where people start showing cracks in the foundation. They start showing mental emotional breakdown. The economy collapses where now people have no quality of life. And it gets down to saying, well, are you saying that the economy is more valuable than a life? It's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is lives are in jeopardy in quarantine because of mental emotional issues, and lives are in jeopardy out of quarantine because of the coronavirus. You have to balance the two. And right now, I'm seeing people really starting to crack under the isolation, the loneliness, the pressure of being locked away and watching their lives fall apart on the outside. Will they have a job to go back to? Will the business they had be there? Will it survive? How are they going to feed their family, pay their rent, pay their mortgage? All of that. So, look, I went off on this tangent when you said, what should I say to my teenagers when they want to go outside? I'm saying, let them go outside. You need them to have some fresh air. But as we transition back into the world, whether it's your kids out in the yard or you going back into the world because your community is lifting restrictions, do so responsibly. Look, just because some politician says it's okay to go out there, that doesn't change the biology of this virus. It is what it is. So you need to do the things that have worked so well for us. You need to do the social distancing. You need to have a mask on to protect yourself as well as others. Have gloves at hand. Wash your hands constantly. Wipe down surfaces. Do all the things the CDC has been telling us. It's allowed us to turn the tide here. And we don't want to now go racing back out into life and have it all surge back up and overwhelm us again. So I'm a big proponent of getting back out into the world responsibly, carefully, scientifically sound. And getting your kids outside is all right. Now make them follow the rules, no question about it. Patty Canup says, how long will this virus last? I heard it will not go away. Well, for me to answer that question is outside my lane, but I have talked to close to 20 experts during the shows that we dedicated to COVID-19 and the coronavirus. And they tell me that this is likely to be very cyclical, that it's likely to come back in the fall and the summer if it ever leaves now. So the key is, like so many others that we've had to deal with before, we're going to need to find a vaccine for it. We're going to need to find antibodies for it so we can fight it off. Vaccines you give to well people. So you can't give a vaccine to somebody that's already ill, and you oftentimes can't give it to an elderly person who has a suppressed immune system or an underlying condition. So vaccines are great for healthy people. That's why when you get a vaccination, your flu shot in the fall, they always say, you haven't been sick within the last week or 10 days, have you? They're asking you that because if you have, your immune system is depleted. It's been fighting off a cold or whatever. That's not the time to take that injection because it could overwhelm your system. So vaccines are for well people. Antibodies, the experts are telling us, are for people that are already ill. You can give them to anyone. You can give them to somebody that's 99 with COPD and on a ventilator. you can give them antibodies and expect them to begin improving. Now, it checks the virus and stops it. It doesn't fix the damage that may have already been done by things you've done in your life or damage that the virus has caused before. But antibodies are really what your body builds up to fight things off, but they can be given to you externally to boost your immune system. And I am told by some of the experts that they absolutely 100% have the antibody for COVID-19, but it has to be tested, approved, and then manufactured like 1 billion doses so we can put this in check around the world. So is this going to go away? Probably not, but we will have weapons, tools to fight it very soon, according to what the experts are telling me. Not my field. It's just I have access to them and you may not. Alina Nortina says, there isn't a vaccine for SARS. How are we going to get a vaccine for COVID-19? Well, by the way, SARS was not a flu, by the way. Most people treat it as a flu, but actually it was not a flu. And we do have antibodies that have been derived from SARS. So it has been very, very important to us to have that. And we're just making progress now because we just simply have some tools and technology and some science now that we didn't have 15 years ago. So as a result, I think that we're going to have a vaccine, and we may have a vaccine as early as August of this year. Now, there's no guarantee in that, but I think even Dr. Fauci is suggesting that we may have a vaccine sooner rather than later. The idea is, again, get it tested and then get it broadly, make it broadly available. But you know, SARS is actually severe acute respiratory syndrome. It's not a flu. And by the way, it was mostly experienced among health workers. Those that were on the front lines passed it among themselves, so it didn't go as broad as COVID-19 has gone. Shirley Turner-Levy says, does the stay-at-home order being lifted mean that it's safe to visit family not living under the same roof? Well, look, again, fact check me on this. Go to CDC, go to the National Allergy and Infectious Disease website and ask that question, because the answer changes across time as we learn more and more about this virus. But I can tell you that you have to really know what everybody's history is in order to know that you're safe. I mean, if you're going to visit relatives, do you really know how much in quarantine they have been? Have they been going to the store, for example, and you haven't? Well, then they may have a higher risk of picking something up than you do. So social distancing can help you protect yourself from that. So, but let the CDC answer those questions. I have an opinion of it based on knowing people's history, but I'll let you go to the sites and get the answer to that question. Is it safer to not do it? Of course, it's safer to not do it. Is there a point where it's a reasonable risk if you know what the exposures have been and how in quarantine they've actually been? That's a decision you'll have to make. Mickey Amir says, what is your advice for someone who just can't let go of pain? I assume that's a generic question, and I can tell you, pain is not really something that you get over. If you've had the loss of a loved one, you're going to grieve that person, and it's not like, well, I'll grieve for 6 months and get over their loss. Uh, I've buried both of my parents and a sister and um, Robin's sister within the last bit of time, whom we were all very close to. Um, and I'm sad to say that I've had a nephew die within the last 48 hours that worked at Dr. Phil for the last 10 years or so. He passed away in ICU at Cedars, not associated with COVID, um, but with other issues that he had been fighting for some time regarding his kidneys and a form of cancer. So I've had that loss in my own life recently, and I don't expect to ever get over that pain. I've never gotten over the pain of losing my mother or father. I've never gotten over the pain of losing uh, my sister Dina or Robin's sister Cindy, and I don't expect to get over the pain of losing my nephew Scott, who I've known all of his life and has worked here at Dr. Phil for the last 10 years. Um, what happens is you change. You don't get over it, you change. You make adjustments. You find a new way to accommodate to and relate to that person. You bring them into your consciousness in a way that every time you think of them, you don't have this broken heart. You celebrate their life. Um, it's just been kind of a rough time. Uh, we have a couple that are best friends and have been for 30 years, and the wife of the couple died just a few weeks ago. It was Robin's best friend in the world, passed away. We lost her. So there's been a lot of things to contend with here during this quarantine for us. And, I try to focus not on the day that we lost this precious friend or my great nephew, but instead on all the days that they live and all the times that we shared. So I can tell you, don't set your goal as getting over something. Set your goal as learning to live with and accommodate it. Set your goal is that every time you think of them, you don't focus on the day they died, but instead the whole span of their life and how much joy they brought to you during that time. And I'm one of those people that has a very active spiritual life. I do believe in the afterlife, and so I think that we're the ones that are suffering. They've gone to a better place. So I do celebrate that for them. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt any less for us that are left behind. So I hope that helps, Mickey, and try to focus on the good times and not just that one day that someone died. I want to talk about the shows that are coming up because we've got one coming up in particular that's relevant to Mickey's question. But today, we've decided to do all of these shows that I said about that we did right before the pandemic, and it's really refreshing. I've enjoyed watching them. Today's show, we have a mother, Dina, 45. She has a daughter, Karina, who's just 18. And what a delightful young woman, very accomplished, did well in school. So well, in fact, that she got a scholarship to college. And she went for 1 week. 1 week she went to college, and then she got involved with her boyfriend, Tommy, who mom says got Karina involved in smoking dope and not going to school, et cetera, et cetera. And so now these two are really at odds. And I know so many of you feel like that you've had kids that were just so great, straight and narrow down the path. And then all of a sudden one day, bang, they just make a 90-degree turn and head off in the wrong direction. That's what we're talking about today. You're going to find this a very interesting show. Tomorrow is a very unusual show. We have a woman on named Susie, and she's a body double, was a body double here in Hollywood for an unbelievable list of A-listers. She was a model and a body double and had a great career. Everybody knew her. She worked in movies and television and was so successful. And then she says she contracted a mysterious disease that she doesn't know how to explain, but she is compelled to eat, and she's ingesting 7,000 calories a day. She can't even get in the shower without having food with her, or she goes into a panic attack. She couldn't sit on stage with me without food next to her chair for fear of going into a panic attack. And some of the stuff that she ingests is just to have something to ingest. She says it's absolutely disgusting. It's not that she just loves eating. She says she hates this. And so we really dive into what's going on with somebody that all of a sudden goes from a hugely successful career, financially and otherwise, and believes that she has to start doing this. And it's dominating her life. There's no question about it. Friday, we're doing a show that I think you're going to find very, very thought-provoking. I know you've seen this story. A young man by the name of Ahmaud Arbery was reportedly out jogging in a small town in Georgia. And he is running down the street, suburban neighborhood, and there's a pickup pulled sideways blocking his path. He attempts to go around it, and to make a long story short, he's shot down in the street with a shotgun. He tries to avert and go around these folks, but when he gets around the other side, according to reports, there's someone there that was in the pickup, has jumped out and has a shotgun, a long gun, big gun. And so a confrontation ensues, and he's trying to push the muzzle of the gun away, and it shoots through his hand. And then he's shot twice more in the torso and killed at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on February 23rd, broad daylight. A month goes by, nothing is done. 2 months goes by, nothing is done. This is getting passed around, and it turns out the people that have now been arrested, Gregory McMichaels and his son Travis was the one that did the shooting. The father had a history with law enforcement down there, and the parents feel like he just got preferential treatment. They weren't going to prosecute. I have a sit down with the mother and the father and the lawyers for the mother and the father who are seeking justice in this matter. They're putting the pressure on to get this adjudicated. The arrests have been made, but I have the opportunity to talk to these two parents who are absolutely devastated. They're heartbroken, angry, frustrated. They feel like this was racially motivated. The father says he thinks it was a modern day lynching. And to have the opportunity to sit down with the two of them and really drill down on this is very interesting. You don't want to miss this. This is going on in America right now. One of the things they asked me to do, the mother says it is so painful she cannot watch the tape. She knows there's a videotape. She thinks the person that videoed it is involved and was there to take the video of this crime, was part of the crime. That's her belief. That person has not been arrested as yet. But one of the things that she's not watched this tape, but one of the things she and the lawyer asked me to do, given my background in forensic psychology, is to evaluate this tape. And I looked for, I pay attention to everything from micro expressions, microaggression, body language, behavior, social behavior. I was looking for aggression, provocative behavior, provoking a confrontation, everything like that. And she and the lawyer wanted me to study this tape, break it down, and tell them what I saw. So I studied this tape before that interview as close to frame by frame as I could get and gave them my impressions of it. And you'll hear that during this broadcast. Now, there are also some things coming out now that are attempting to assassinate the character of this young man. But I can tell you, I think it's working in the wrong direction, because if he did everything that they're trying to dredge up, none of that justifies killing an unarmed young man in broad daylight in the middle of the street. This was a young man in tennis shoes, jogging clothes, and he appears to me to be jogging. Now, they could say no, but that's what it appears to me. But I analyzed this tape very, very carefully and talk about it with the mother and also share this with the father. They're very upset. You're going to hear about this mother's last interaction with her son before his death, what they said to each other and how she feels about all of that now, what they think is going to happen, and what they hope is going to happen. This is an interview that counts. Tell everyone you know this one you want to watch. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being here today.